Well, happy week 3, everyone. I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of each and every one of you, of all the hard work that each of you are putting into this class, the thoughtful discussions on the forum posts, just the amount of energy and effort that you're pouring into your assignments really is coming through. So I want to applaud your efforts and to cheer you on, just to say, keep on moving, keep on going. We're getting to the halfway point, if not already kind of crossed it with starting week 3. So we're already almost there at the finish line. And so, as we continue to talk about reconciliation in Romans, last week we had talked about the cross and all that, the implications there for us, and what we're going to continue to journey into through these first few chapters in Romans is discovering the kinds of gifts, the kind of gift that reconciliation is and what God has done to make that possible. And we're going to talk about a model this week in Abraham and what the kind of theological aspects are there that Paul pulls from that helps us to understand what a gift God has given us, that one has made reconciliation available and possible with God and with one another. And I do want to make that point clear is that the possibility for reconciliation, and not that it's predetermined as a kind of thing between us and between God, but that again through everything Jesus has done, the gift we are presented that affords us the opportunity to be reconciled back to God and with one another. The possibility again. We have a friend, Sarah, who's going to be sharing a story with us here pretty soon. And the depth and the severity of the story I want for us to wrestle with this week, about how reconciliation is possible, even in and through the darkest and toughest situations. So listen close, press pause if you need to at certain moments. Um, and I'll come back at the end to close this out.
So, today, I wanted to tell you the story of a dear, dear friend of mine because she deals with some real complexities when it comes to reconciliation. And I think that understanding her story can help nuance our own story. Her name, let's call her Casey. Casey is 26 years old. She lives in Salem, Oregon. She has a boyfriend. She has a job working for a nonprofit. And she lives with her dad while she's saving up money to be able to buy her own house. She has a very broken relationship with her mom, but her relationship with her dad was very broken, but is healing and becoming something very beautiful. When I first met Casey, she knew about my work with human trafficking and working to protect and prosecute and prevent human trafficking. And she asked me, what's the definition of human trafficking? And I told her, and she looked at me and she said, I think I might be a victim of human trafficking. And when she told me her story, I said, oh, yes. Yes, you are a victim of human trafficking. And so here's her story. Her parents divorced when she was very, very young. She and her mom moved to Washington, and her dad lived in Arizona. And while Casey was growing up, her mother became more and more mentally ill. She has schizophrenia, but that didn't really surface until after she had Casey. Casey's mom would try to provide for her daughter, but often mismanaged the funds that she was given, and so she didn't have any money. So she would sell Casey to pedophiles for up to a week at a time to do what they wished, and then return her to her home. And then Casey's mom would have enough money to buy her chocolate milk and candy and whatever else she felt like she needed to have in her life, pretty dresses. She would have what she needed, so she justified it that way. So these pedophiles would take her for a week, dress her up as a doll, tell her she was pretty, brush her hair, and rape her. And she would come home from those, and she would call her dad and tell her dad that she had just been with a man and that he had done terrible things to her. And her dad's response to that was to cry on the phone and to say, let's pray about it. Now, I hope that hearing "let's pray about it" as a response to this kind of horror really gets your blood boiling, because it does me. It infuriates me. By all accounts, these two people should be in prison. Casey's mom for the way that she treated her and how she used her body, and Casey's dad for knowing about it and not doing anything. Being a few states away isn't a good enough excuse. Being a Christian and believing in the power of prayer isn't a good enough excuse to go and actually remove your daughter from the situation. So they should be in prison. But Casey feels very strongly that she needs to reconcile with them and to try and develop a stronger relationship with them, particularly with her mother. She told me that she hopes that someday her mother is clear-minded enough to have a relationship with God. And when that happens, she wants to think of her daughter. Casey wants her mother to think of her and say, she knows how I can become closer to Christ. I need to make amends with Casey in order to have a strong relationship with Christ. So she's working toward that. Casey has great boundaries with her mom. Because she lives in the next town over, she doesn't have to see her all the time. She doesn't take her phone calls all the time. But she tries to meet with her when her mom is having a good day and she's doing well. Then she can actually try and make some connection there, because other times she's disconnected from reality. She's extremely self-centered and thinks everything revolves around her, to the point that she ended up marrying, they just divorced last year, but she ended up marrying one of Casey's pedophiles and would get frustrated with Casey when her marriage wasn't going well. She blamed it on Casey and the abuse that she suffered. Casey is trying to figure out how to reconcile with both of her parents, and she's also trying to figure out how to reconcile her childhood, because she was missing for times from school. She would be gone for a week, and no one would ask why or what was going on at home. She would show up at the hospital with cuts and bruises because her mom, during her delirium, would cut her if she talked back. She would smear dog poop on her if she talked back. If she was disobedient in any way, she would formulate these horrific things as punishment. One time she made her drink Drano, and Casey had to have her esophagus replaced because of it. No one in the hospitals, no one at the schools was asking what's going on in this child's home. So the social system, the justice system failed her as a child. And now she's a 26-year-old trying to deal with the devastating aftermath of being a human trafficking victim. So, I come from a very loving, beautiful home with parents who stood to protect me and protect our neighborhood with everything they had. I still have hurts and hang-ups with my parents. I still have things that I wish they would have done differently, and I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile that within myself. That's a journey that I'm on as a 33-year-old. Casey has a much more demanding future ahead of her. When she has tried to talk to her mom about the abuse, her mom freaks out and blames Casey for it. Or else she doesn't see anything wrong with her actions. That was just part of being a mother, being a single mom. You had to do what you had to do. She was doing what she did to provide for her child. That's what she'll say. So how does Casey reconcile with her mom when her mom doesn't see that she's done anything wrong? And with her dad, like I said, her relationship with her dad is very beautiful right now. It's moving forward. They have a healthy relationship. They have good boundaries. They're very loving to each other. They're generous with each other. We just had dinner at their house, and when her dad came in, he said hello, and then he was going to bed. And when he left, he said, "Love you guys." And Mark and I responded, "Love you too." And we were genuine. We genuinely loved this man. But when I got in the car later and I realized that he's the same man that allowed this horrific abuse to happen to my dear friend, I had a difficult time reconciling that. That's difficult for me. So I can only imagine how difficult it is for Casey. She has tried to talk to her dad about it, and he cries and sobs and says he's sorry, and he goes on and on. I'm sorry, I don't know what to do to make this better. And he doesn't want to talk about it anymore because he's so sick over it. He wants to just move on. So Casey and I were just talking about this, and she said, I don't know what reconciliation looks like for us yet, but I'm willing to put in the hard work to make it happen. So I'm thinking of the time when Jesus said that we needed to forgive 7 times, 70 times. And I can't help but think that Casey has had to forgive more than that for the horrific things that happened to her. So was Jesus speaking literally or figuratively? I think we all assume he means figuratively, because how on earth can someone sin against you so many times? Well, she's had to deal with that. So I'm wondering, how much is too much? Is there a point where we say, this is too much to reconcile our relationship? I don't know. I'm curious to know what you guys think. And I'm also wondering, not only how much is too much, but is it possible to have a healthy relationship with someone after they have inflicted such egregious abuse? And I don't know that either, because I haven't experienced it. But lots of people do experience it. Now, I hope that no one in this class has any idea as to how to try and reconcile this kind of a thing, because I hope that no one in this class has suffered the abuse that my friend Casey has suffered. But there's a chance that some of you have. And so I don't mean to bring up past hurts. I don't mean to dig up anything new. But what I would like to do is, as a class, come together and look at the word reconciliation and what that means very practically in our lives.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And that's part of what I want for us to think through this week is, what does reconciliation look like? That we know and are in communities that have been stricken by trauma and violence and divisions, and people that are suffering and trying to figure out how do I keep moving forward, and how do I make sense of this situation. And so in your readings this week, of being able to dig through some resources and to see how reconciliation is made possible to through Jesus as a gift, and some of the significant theological meaning of that, and then some of the practical implications of how do we work through it as a community, and for us as a community to have the kinds of awareness and the systems in place in order to support individuals that are walking through the thick of it, through such grief and trauma. I was reading an article the other day on Reuters about how there were studies done by victims who have suffered under war and violence, and how the PTSD, while there was some good work that was done, but the PTSD ultimately caused people to even go into more depression. And what was necessary alongside the reconciliation efforts were mental health resources, of therapists and counselors that were necessary, spiritual counselors as well, that were necessary to accompany people as they were walking and re-walking through their grief. And so what I want for us to think through are, what kinds of resources are also necessary, not just to make reconciliation possible, but lasting when reconciliation is possible. And so I hope you guys have a great week. If you guys need anything, please let me know. At my office hours this week are Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via Zoom, and you'll find that link on the Moodle course. And so I look forward to interacting with you, to seeing your work, and to being able to talk with you also more about this important subject. See you guys.